Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your friend, your boy, Al Quarles, host of Guys Talking Sports. But actually, what we're going to do is do something a little bit different for this special edition, which is now going to be talking called Daily Sports Talk. So what we're going to do is going to talk about what's been going on in the world of sports today, and we're just going to start getting talk about some of the things that's going on and discuss everything that's going on in sports, whether it's NFL, NBA. So we're just going to get started. We're going to start off, of course, with in the NFL, I should say. The Colts owner Jim Irsay being suspended for 6 games and fined $500,000 by the NFL. He pled guilty for one misdemeanor count for operating a vehicle while being intoxicated. The question I have in this regard is really what took so long for this to happen, but I'm assuming that Roger Goodell had a good explanation in regards to this. Maybe he was waiting for the actual sentence for Jim Irsay, before making his ruling, which I could pretty much understand if he wanted to take time to wait until the court made their ruling before they made their ruling. So all in all, it's still controversial about how many games he got suspended. I don't really think that him being suspended 6 games is really not going to do anything for owners' perspective. To be honest, when they could just do when they're the boss, they don't really have to go to the games. So I think that maybe somewhere down the road the NFL could do something a little bit more harsher for owners where it really hits them. The $500,000, of course you're losing money, but at this particular point, I don't think that that's something that should be ruled out against, to maybe increasing the fine more, or something where it really tells the owners that, hey, we shouldn't do this, and I'm not going to jeopardize what I've done, as far as maybe it'll make them think twice about ever doing it again or doing it at all. You see a lot of NFL players, they'll tell you that, for example, that when you don't play games in the NFL, you're losing money because you're not playing, and you need, in order for you to get paid, you have to play. So suspended 6 games doesn't really mean anything for any owners. Being suspended for any amount of games doesn't really mean anything for the owners because they're not playing. They never had played. So I think the $500,000, maybe stiffer, harsher penalty on the fines would probably get them to understand the severity of it. Driving while intoxicated, that's really, that's the wrong thing to do. And a lot of teams, a lot of players, and a lot of owners feel as though that just because they're in a certain positions, athletes sometimes, they feel as though they can tend to get away with it because based on maybe their fame or popularity. But you still have to send a message to anybody, whether you're an athlete or owner, that this will not be tolerated. And I think, I'm not saying that Roger Goodell didn't do any, if the ruling wasn't good for the NFL, because you had to do something. But I really thought that being suspended 6 games really wouldn't do anything to hurt him. Now let's take an example, the suspension for Wes Walker for the 4 games of the regular season for substance policy. That alone would be warranted because of the fact that you're taking the player out of the game, which means that he cannot get paid for those first 4 games. That's understandable because you're actually taking money from him. He's actually giving back the money that he's worked so hard to get to that point. With the owners, maybe a heavier fine, because they should set an example. They feel as though that they feel as though maybe that they can get away with something sometimes. And I'm not saying that all owners are thinking that way or anything like that, but you do have to set precedents. And from Roger Goodell's standpoint, the 6-game suspension to me is ridiculous. You can't be suspended 6 games for something that you don't play. That's like me saying having the courts to suspend me for 10 games of the NBA season, and I don't even play the NBA season. So, you have to understand that when you look at it from that perspective, you know, oh, I can't, you know, I can't, I'm suspended 6 games. I can still watch it on my TV at home while I'm still doing the work that needs to be done. To them, they may be like, you know, that's nothing. The $500,000, oh, it's a start. I think that they should really put stiffer penalties for second multiple time offenders. Definitely, they should draw away from the 6 game suspension or ban for the full season or whatever, because that doesn't stop them from still being owners of the team, and doesn't stop them from still going to the practice facilities. It's just not at the actual games. So you have to realize that that's something that you have to consider. I would change the rules when it comes down to the owners, because being suspended a certain amount of games for the owners doesn't mean anything for them. Maybe instead of suspending them for the games, instead of suspending them for the games, how about if they do it again, you double the fine, or triple the fine, for example. So if you suspending Jim Irsay $500,000, I mean, this is your first ruling. He does it again. Of course, you know, him being banned or anything, banned from the arena, I could see that being the next move. But I really think that after that first offense and something happens again, I think that it should move to more than you're getting close to, like maybe hitting them over. It has to be like somewhere over $1 million. Let's get it to make an example that owners need to be held accountable as well. Players is always held accountable, and I'm not defending the players at all, because players know the right from wrong. And I think Roger Goodell took that step when he did made changes to the domestic abuse policy after the Ray Rice situation. Now, of course, we all know that the whole situation with Ray Rice, you know, it didn't work out the way that everybody would have thought it was felt that's fair. We already know that. We already agreed to that. But what it boils down to is that Roger Goodell at least took the effort and a step in the right direction by actually making the penalties a lot more difficult. So once he did that, that set the example. Now I'm curious to see what happens with the San Francisco player that just had the domestic abuse. I forgot who it was that just got arrested just after 72 hours after they implemented the policy. So I'm more curious to see what happens from that aspect. If Roger Goodell is really going to stick to his guns, and we're going to see what happens there. But getting back to Jim Irsay, I really believe that, you know, hopefully down the road, maybe who's to say that Roger Goodell doesn't make the change to make it stiffer for the ownership as well? Because, like I said, everybody needs to be held accountable, whether you're a player or an owner. And I think what Roger Goodell has done is take a step in the right direction. Now, I think, to be honest, the whole leagues, both the NFL and also the NBA, they took the step in the right direction when they had dealt with the whole Donald Sterling incident. So, you know, maybe that's what Roger Goodell is piggying back off. Okay, you know, because the policy was in place, I had to do it this way. But now that we know the severity of this, we need to enforce this. The only thing that I could say that Roger Goodell didn't do actually well was be proactive in regards to the policies concerned. Set an example. But other than that, I think he's taking a step in the right direction. He realizes that the whole the punishment that he gave for Ray Rice was a mistake. So now he's looking more into the actual punishments for these types of, for all these crazy charges. And I think it helps set an example for the NFL and for the rest of the league to say, look, you're on notice now. We are watching you. So anything that you do, you have to be held accountable for your actions. And I think that's something that is a step in the right direction, mainly for the NFL as a whole, because you don't want the owners to be, you know, the players to think that the owners are getting away with something, and you want, you know, and vice versa. You need to set an example. And it's interesting the fact that, you know, if the players union is going to agree with all these changes, I haven't heard anything in regards from the players union about it, but I think that it's a step in the right direction for the NFL. Now, one more thing I wanted to talk about in regards to the NFL is the whole Michael Sam situation. Uh, as you know, Michael Sam was released by the Rams. A lot of people believe that he is going to be signed to a team or at least to a practice squad. And there are reports out today that are saying that the Cowboys, pending a physical from Michael Sam, the Cowboys may actually put him on their practice squad. From a Cowboys perspective, I mean, your defense is not really at a point where to be honest, you need all the help you can get. And I'm not saying that because I'm pretty much saying it because it's true. The Cowboys defense really doesn't have that much going for themselves. And to add a player like Michael Sam, even if it's to the practice squad, it helps take their defense to the right direction. We'll hopefully see what happens, whether he'll actually make the squad, make the team or not. But even if you make the practice squad, it's still a win-win, because the simple fact is that Michael Sam, throughout all the things that's going on right now with him, he is still actually a good enough player to at least make a practice squad. And he is still young. He still has time to groom. And once you groom him, he has every position, everything going for him to at least try to make it and compete with other players to make the teams. Somebody's going to take a look at him. And even if Cowboys do sign him to the practice squad, it's a step in the right direction for Michael Sam. So I really believe that he's going to be an NFL player down the road. Regardless, he has a good career, a future ahead of him. He just has to take initiative, take ownership, and just attack it and go at it, and he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Real quick, let's talk about the Washington Redskins. That name situation. I understand both sides, and it's funny because I was talking to one of my associates about this, and the whole thing about they need they need to get rid of the name, they need to keep the name. Here's the thing I have. My situation is, my thing about it is this: as far as the Washington Redskins is concerned, the focus really, that's something that needs to be dealt with, ownership. Redskins players really need to focus on themselves. I know they get tired of media probably asking them the same questions in regards to the name of the team, but they need to focus on being a team to get ready for the NFL season, because that starts next week. Now, in regards to the Redskins name itself, I could really understand both sides of it. I'm more interested to see the outcome of this, whether it'll be kept or whether it will not. Because right now they're saying that there's a poll saying that 58% of NFL players think that they should keep the name, while 42% of the NFL players believe as though they should change it. It's really half and half. Those numbers, it's not really about the NFL players to me at this particular point. It's more so the actual people, the fans, or if you take a national poll and everybody is if the majority of the people agree that they should keep the name, then they should keep it. I'm more interested to understand the reasoning why people are wanting to change the names. I know that it's an offensive word to a lot of people, but the true focus is that. If that is the case, why are we hearing about this now? Shouldn't this have been an ongoing situation that should have been ongoing from when they first did it? I'm more interested, I guess, why all the press about it now? I think that's really where I'm trying to get an understanding of. I really think, to be honest, doesn't really matter to me whether they change it or keep it. The team as itself, the Washington team, they really need to just really focus on their quarterback situation and whether or not they could make it out of the NFC East. And what do they need to do as far as that is concerned? Because the whole RG3 thing, Kirk Cousins quarterback debate, that's going to I mean, that's really going to tell your season right there. RG3 has to be the RG3 of when he first came out of the year. I mean, out as a rookie. If he's not that, there's going to be a whole lot of talk about, hey, bring in Kirk Cousins. He's better suited for this offense, and he's definitely good to go for this team. He can get it to the right direction. I think that's where their focus should be on. NFL players as well need to focus on their teams as well. I mean, as an NFL player, it really wouldn't matter to me. You see these happen all the time. Whether you see when teams move, they change their names all the time. So, if, you can't expect it. Like, it's like saying, the whole Charlotte thing. The Bobcats now they originally went back to the Hornets, and that's how I see it. I really don't see it as much as an issue, but I can understand it from both sides. So it'd be interesting to see what happens from this point on as far as the name is concerned. So we're gonna I'm gonna talk more about NFL most likely tomorrow. Right now I want to get into the NBA and the whole FIBA. Right now what's going on pretty much is the FIBA World Cup. The question I had was asked to me was like, what FIBA team do you think can possibly defeat the team USA? I really couldn't find a team per se that can really defeat them. But if there's any team that can give them a good run, will definitely be Team Spain. The Gasol brothers and Rubio, those guys, they're also perfect. They're 3-0. Very interesting to see what they do when they play head to head, because I think that to me that was the game. I think that's the team that's the game that everybody will really want to see. So it'll be very interesting to see how Team USA handle Spain and vice versa, because that's really their test. The teams that they're playing right now, I'm not saying that they're easy games or anything like that, but right now those teams are no match for Team USA. I think Spain will definitely give them more of a challenge, and it'll be interesting to see how much of a challenge they give to Team USA. And I think Spain is definitely the one team that could do it. I would have gave Argentina also included as Manu was actually playing, but since Ginobili is not playing for Argentina, I still think that Spain is hands-on down. I'm not gonna say. I say Spain and maybe Dominican Republic. Those two teams, I would give them a chance to run with Team USA. But I really think that Spain has the overall better chance of all the teams, I would say, to defeat Team USA. Also, side note, since I will be doing a podcast for Brooklyn Nets fans, since I am a Brooklyn Nets person, I do have to say I have been looking at Boston Bogdanovic. That's going to be playing with the Nets this summer. I have to admit that I am seeing how we can utilize his game more and more. To be honest, he reminds me so much. To be honest, he reminds me of a Paul Pierce caliber person, from an offensive game standpoint. Definitely would like to see more from a defensive side. But he's averaging 19 points in the FIBA World Cup, and he is actually doing a good job. And it gives me more of a reasoning why I can see why it wasn't a big issue for the Nets, I guess, when Pierce went to Washington. More so the fact that because it gives now him the opportunity, it gives the Nets the opportunity to see what Boston Bogdanovic can do. So I'm very interested to see how that goes. But from a Nets standpoint, that makes it very interesting. Mason Plumlee. I really would like to see him start alongside Brook Lopez. I really believe you could do damage with a team of Darren Williams, Joe Johnson at the 2, I would probably start Karolinko at 3, Pummy at 4, and Brook at 5. Reason why I'm saying this is because you're going to need someone that's athletic enough to handle the athletic guys, big men. And if Brook can't do it, he could sidestep it. You need someone that can stretch and has the athletic ability to stretch the floor. And I really think that you could utilize that with Pummy. Now, what Lionel Hollins do with the lineup, I'm also interested to see. But we'll get into the Brooklyn Nets when training camp and the preseason starts, and that's probably about a month. That's a good month away. So I'm not going to get into that. But as far as Team USA, they're basically a great team right now that relies solely on their defense. And a lot of teams, a lot of the world international teams need to understand that their defense is going to win games. The better your defense is against USA, and the better your offense is, you can basically do some damage against Team USA. I think that's one of the reasons why I picked Spain, because they pass a lot. I would not be surprised if they're leading in assists as a team, but their chemistry is also there. Their defense, if it's solid as it should be, I really do see them giving Team USA a run for the money. Okay, but we're gonna talk more about that later. My time is up. I would like to thank all those who've been watching. I really appreciate it. Probably gonna do another one. Most likely, I'm gonna do another one tomorrow, same time. You can catch me out on Google Plus. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you want to join in, you want to ask questions, you can reach me on Google Plus. That's where I'm having my hangouts out now. You can also check me on Twitter if you have any questions, any sports questions. You can follow me at IAMALQUARLES. Again, that's IAMALQUARLES. Again, for all those, I'm going to be putting this also on iTunes as part of the podcast selection. I'd like to thank everybody for checking me out. Again, you can catch me on tomorrow. So until then, I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot.